What's going on YouTube? You know what it is when you clicked it. It's your boy Soul. We back with another video. We are doing the Wrath of the Lich King Restoration Druid talent build setup for patch 335. So without further ado, let's jump in. First things first though, I do want to say thank you to all my new subscribers. Thank you to everyone who's been viewing the channel, commenting, just being a part of the community. I really can't thank you enough. I think at this very moment, my Paladin video is my highest viewed video on the channel at 2.1k views. I never thought the Paladin one would jump out the window like that. I know Paladin was a popular class, but I didn't think it would jump out like that. So I can't thank everyone enough for that. Really, I'm really grateful. But let's jump into this Resto Druid shit. All right, Resto Druid. So Resto Druid has primarily two builds that you're going to be using, right? You have the first one, which is known as the 735 Haste build, and the second one, which is the 856. Basically, these two builds denote the haste breakpoints that you're at. So for earlier guild levels, you should be trying to get to that 735, and then after that, your next focus is to get to the 856. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to strictly focus on the 856 build because that's the build that you want to end up with. I will denote the differences of the two builds later on in the video, but just to get the bulk of the video out the way, I want to focus on the 856 build. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on in. First things first, we have improved Mark of the Wild. So this increases the effects of your Mark of the Wild, Gift of the Wild, by 40% and increases all of your attributes by 2%. This is really cut and dry. It increases your raid buff and gives you a small boost to your own stats, so gotta love that. Next things next, we got Nature's Focus, reduces the pushback suffered while casting Healing Touch, Wrath, and Tingling Roots, Cyclone, Nourish, Regrowth, and Trank by 70%. This talent it's really a means to an end to get down the tree, but it still does affect Healing Touch, Nourish, and Regrowth, and reduces the pushback by 70%, which is no small feat. But because druids are instant cast users, pushback isn't really a weakness, so that's why I say in and of itself it may not be a strong talent, but it still affects spells that we use. So definitely take it, and it's definitely stronger than the latter, which is Furor. Furor gives you a 20% chance to gain 10 rage when you shapeshift into bear form, or 20 energy when you go in cat form, or and increases your intellect in Moonkin form. But it doesn't do anything for Tree of Life. It doesn't do anything for Resto Druid. So skip Furor. Moving on down, we have Natural Shapeshifter. Natural Shapeshifter, again, to me, is just a means to an end to get down the tree. You're not going to be shapeshifting much into your animal forms. You're shapeshifting to tree form, and maybe out of it to cast certain spells, but it's not something that in it of itself is very impactful. But because of what it's linked to, and because it's stronger than the other options, in my opinion, I think you should take it. Moving over here, we have Subtlety, reduces the threat generated by your restoration spells by 20%, and reduces the chance your helpful spells, Moonfire and Insect Swarm, will be dispelled, so give you some dispel protection. Normally I'd be shitting on the threat reduction talents for healers, because generally speaking, if a healer has a lot of threat issues, that's more so the tank's problem. But Resto Druid is the one caveat, because Resto Druids more than likely are going to be the raid healer. They're blanket healing everybody, so everybody has their healing effects on them, and B, because of their blanket healing, they're probably going to be the highest healer, the healer with the highest threat. And on a fight like, let's say, Dreamwalker, where they're ad spawning, you don't want the Resto Druid picking up healer aggro and then getting slapped if the tank isn't paying attention or the Resto Druid is just out of position, right? So Subtlety is a talent that I would take, not full, not 3 out of 3. I would go 2 out of 3 just to help get down the tree more. But there's more merit here for a Resto Druid than for other healers, in my opinion. So definitely want to take it. Moving over, we have Naturalist, reduces the cast time of your Healing Touch spell by would be 0.5 if you max it out, so half a second if you max it out. It increases the damage you deal with all physical attacks by 10% if you max it out. Again, we don't care about the physical attacks because we're a healer, and reducing the cast time on Healing Touch isn't really impactful. I think these two options are stronger than getting 5 out of 5 Naturalists. You may feel different. I think these two spells go further than the first half of Naturalist. Moving on down, we have Master Shapeshifter. Skipping all of the other forms, Increases the healing by 4% while in Tree of Life form. You can't be mad at a flat 4% increase heal in Tree of Life. Like that's really great. So definitely want to take Master Shapeshifter 2 out of 2. Moving over, we have Omen of Clarity. So changing from the TBC talent. In TBC, this was a active ability that you got. It was a buff that you maintained on yourself, much like Mark of the Wild. It was a 30-minute buff that still did the same effect. Each one of the druid's damage, healing, and auto attacks have a chance to enter their caster into a clear casting state, basically making your next rage, mana, or energy cost ability free. So it's going to save you a little bit of mana, because while you're casting, it's going to make, every so often, it's going to make a spell free of charge. So gotta love that. Moving over, we have Intensity. So this allows 50% of your mana generation to continue while casting. It causes your enrage ability to instantly generate 10 rage. Again, we don't care about the enrage component, but we do care about the 50% mana regeneration to continue while casting, just making Resto Druid a more effective, more efficient healer. Moving on down, we have Tranquil Spirit. Reduces the mana cost of your Healing, Touch, Nourish, and Tranquility spells by 2%. Again, you're probably going to hear me say this a lot, but maybe not a lot, but you already heard me say it a lot. But Tranquil Spirit is more a means to an end. Trank isn't a spell that you cast like that. Neither is really Healing, Touch. Nourish is a spell that you do kind of cast, but reducing the mana cost by 2%, not super impactful. More a means to an end to get down the tree, but can't be mad at it. So 2% is 2%, right? Moving over, we have Improve Rejuvenation, increasing the effect of your Rejuvenation spell by 15%. Rejuvenation is your most efficient spell, probably in my opinion your most important spell as a Resto Druid. So increasing it by 15%, you cannot be mad at. Definitely 3 out of 3. Moving down, we have Improved Tranquility. Reduces the threat caused by Tranquility by 50%. That will be 100% if you max it out. And reduces the cooldown by 30% or 60% when maxed out. The reason why I skipped this is because, one, you're not using Tranquility like that. I think people forget that Tranquility, even though like the effect looks big, Tranquility still only affects party members in Wrath. Like Kata is when Tranquility became the raid-wide spell. And there's no real reason that you're gonna stand still and channel Trank when you can just cast Wild Growth and keep shit moving, right? So skip Improve Tranquility. Gift of Nature increases the effect of all healing spells by 10%, just a flat 10% boost to your healing spells, much like the Purification talent in the Resto Shaman tree. Gotta love that. Take that. Moving over, we have Nature Swiftness. You know what Nature Swiftness is. When activated, your next nature spell with a base cast time of less than 10 seconds become instant. So really powerful to get out like a strong healing touch or whatnot. So good emergency button, good oh shit button. Definitely should take it. Moving on down, we have Empowered Touch. Your Healing Touch spell gains an additional 40%, and your Nourish spell gains an additional 20% of your bonus healing effects. Again, Healing Touch isn't a really ability that you use rotationally, but when it is used, having a bonus on it can't hurt. Same thing for Nourish. So definitely should take Empowered Touch for the 856 build, that is. Moving over, we have Nature's Bounty. So increases the critical effect chance of your regrowth and Nourish by 25%. This just adds a flat 25% increased chance to crit for regrowth and Nourish. Very strong talent in my opinion. I believe Nature's Bounty just got baked into regrowth baseline later X packs. So that's how strong Nature's Bounty was. They just kind of baselined it, but very strong talent. Definitely should take. Moving on down, we have Natural Perfection. Your critical strike chance with all spells is increased by 2%, and your critical strikes against you give you Natural Perfection, reducing all damage taken by 3%, stacks up to 3 times. So Natural Perfection is very much so like the Priest Focused Will talent. In fact, I think it's one and the same, to be honest. Whereas you're not going to see that secondary effect too much in PvE. So you're really taking this talent for the flat 2% crit. I know in my disc video, I recommended you get 3 out of 3 Focused Will. And for here, I have 2 out of 3. That's really because disc, you really weren't allocating those talent points anywhere else. Like disc is kind of straightforward. You go down the tree. Whereas Resto, you kind of are putting other points in other areas because you do have more options, in my opinion. Like it's a little bit more open-ended than the disc build. So here I'm taking 2 out of 3. You can get 3 out of 3 if you want. 2 out of 3 I think is going to suffice, especially for the build that we're trying to like make up. So 2 out of 3 Natural Perfection. Moving over, we have Swiftman, one of the staples in the Resto Druid repertoire. So consumes a rejuvenation or regrowth effect on your friendly target and instantly healing them, equal to an amount of 12 seconds of a rejuvenation or 18 seconds of a regrowth. So again, this is another, in my opinion, emergency button where you press it, it instantly heals them for a large amount on a relatively short cooldown. Do keep in mind though that it does consume the rejuvenation or regrowth effect. I know I see people a lot like forget that part of the spell, whereas like if you don't have, which we'll get into later, but if you don't have the glyph of Swiftman, you're gonna need that extra GCD to reapply the consumed rejuvenation or growth. So, but still a strong talent, definitely should take. Moving over, we have Living Spirit, increases your total spirit by 15%. Spirit is really impactful for Resto Druids because Spirit allows you to regenerate mana while not casting. Resto Druids have a lot of instant cast, so to be honest, they're not really hard casting a lot. So Spirit goes a little bit further for them than, let's say, a Shaman, so to speak. And Spirit does apply to certain other talents that we'll get into a little bit later, but definitely wanted to get 3 out of 3 Living Spirit. Moving down, we have Empowered Rejuvenation. The bonus healing effect of your healing over time spells is increased by 20%. This is kind of like most near end / penultimate talents where you see a lot of them are 5-point talents and they get strong. This is kind of like that. But again, a 20% increase to bonus healing effects you cannot, to your healing over time specifically effects, you cannot be mad at. So you definitely should take 5 out of 5 rejuvenation. Moving over, we have Living Seed. So when you critically heal your target with Swiftman, Regrowth, Nourish, or Healing Touch, you have a 100% chance to plant a living seed in the target for 30% of the amount healed. The living seed will bloom when the target is attacked. So this is kind of like a single target Prayer of Mending. So when you critically heal with one of the listed spells, you put like, it would be like putting 1 charge of Prayer of Mending on that target. So this living seed, in my opinion, is a decent talent. I know a lot of people skip it when they're taking the 735 haste build, and it's needed then because you want to get to certain talents in the balance subspec. But Living Seed is still a strong talent, especially when you do have to offer some more assistance in tank healing. Like it's not gonna go unnoticed. So Living Seed is definitely a powerful talent, and I think for the purposes of the 856 haste build, you definitely want to take it. Alrighty, next we got Tree of Life. So Tree of Life is one of the staples of the Resto tree. Reduces the mana cost of your healing over time spells by 20% and grants the ability to shapeshift into Tree of Life. While in this form, you increase healing received by 6% for all party and raid members within 100 yards. And you can only cast rejuvenation spells in addition to Innervate, Barkskin, Nature's Grasp, and Thorns. If you know from the TBC version, the 20% movement speed snare is now gone. Thank God. I really don't understand why they had that there. I mean, I guess I do, because in TBC, Resto Druid is a very strong PvP healer. So there kind of had to be some weakness. They can literally CC you and kite you for days. So there kind of had to be some kind of caveat to it. But in Wrath, there are obviously more options across all classes, and you know, the Death Knight is a thing, so having this there wouldn't have been really fun. But yeah, Tree of Life is a very strong talent, and what they've done now is they've kind of separated they've added the healing, flat 6% healing received to the Tree of Life buff, and they've moved the Spirit spell power bonus coefficient from it being baseline to it being kind of a sub talent of the Tree of Life talent, which is Improved Tree of Life, and it increases your armor contribution from items while in Tree of Life form by 200%, and increases your healing spell power by 15% of your spirit while in Tree of Life. So it's no longer the let me make sure I'm wording this correctly. It's no longer the 25%. Let me just double check. While in this form, you increase healing received by 25% of your total spirit. So yeah, so basically they made it better. They made it a lot better. They, instead of increasing healing received by 25% of your spirit, they just made it 6% at all times, not tied to spirit. And then for the spirit component, they just increased your spell power by 15% of your spirit, which also was affected by Living Spirit. So definitely a buff in my opinion, and you definitely want to get both of these talents without question. Moving over, we have Revitalize. So your Rejuvenation and Wild Growth spells have a 15% chance to restore 8 energy, 4 rage, 1% mana, or 16 runic power per tick. This is a very strong utility talent, especially for rogues, feral druids, and death knights, because it gives them a lot. I mean, the 4 rage and the 1% mana is okay, but the 8 energy and the 16 runic power really will fuel those classes that I had just listed and allow them to do a lot more damage. Revitalize should definitely not be slept on and should definitely be taken. It's honestly a really strong ability for the Resto Druid, or not ability, but utility for the Resto Druid to have. Moving over, we have Gift of the Earth Mother. So increases your total haste by 10% and reduces the base cooldown of your life bloom by 10%. So increasing that spell haste by 10% is very impactful. It's going to help fuel both of the spec builds, both the 735 and the 856 builds. And shaving off 10% of the base cooldown of life bloom is also nothing to scoff at. So Gift of the Earth Mother, you definitely want to take. Moving over here, we have Improved Bark Skin. So grants 80% additional armor contribution from cloth and leather items while in travel form or while not shapeshifted, and increases the damage reduction granted by your bark skin spell by 5% and reduces your chance to be your bark skin to be dispelled by 35%. So to me, Improved Bark Skin is definitely a PvP talent. It gives you some armor while you're not in form or while you're in travel form, so basically giving you increased armor at all times, not just in bear form or in Tree of Life form, and gives you some dispel protection from bark skin. Anytime you really see like dispel protection talents, the first and maybe second thing you should be thinking is like, that's a PvP talent, because like I always say in my videos, dispelling isn't a thing you're going to see too often coming from bosses in PvE. So Improved Bark Skin is definitely a PvP talent. And last but not least, we have the capstone ability, the Amazing Wild Growth. Heals up to 5 friendly party or raid members within 15 yards for 686 or wherever your current number is. The amount healed is applied quickly at first and slows down as Wild Growth reaches its full duration. Instant cast. So basically, this is like, if you really want to break it down, this is kind of like an instant cast chain heal. Like, you hit 5 people instantly. It has a 6-second cooldown, but it's an instant cast. Five people instantly, and the ramp up is very quick in the beginning. Like it ticks really fast in the beginning and then slows down at the end. So it's not a trickle. It's not burst healing because it's still ticking. So it's not burst. It's not a large amount happening at one time, but it is a large amount happening within a short span of time. A very powerful ability. Moving on over, we have the balance sub-spec. So in the balance tree, we are going to get Genesis. Increases the damage and healing done by your periodic spell damage and healing effects by 5%. I really don't think I need to explain why you take Genesis. Like, the proof is in the pudding there. A 5% increase to your healing, your periodic healing is amazing. So definitely gotta love it. Moving down here, we have Moon Glow. Reduces the mana cost of your Moonfire, Starfire, Starfall, Wrath, Healing Touch, Nourish, Regrowth, and Rejuvenation by 9%. Obviously, we don't care about those damaging abilities, but reducing the mana cost on Regrowth, Rejuvenation, Healing Touch, and Nourish are really good, especially Rejuvenation. A 9% reduction, can't be mad at. Over here, we have Nature's Majesty. Increases the critical strike chance of your Wrath, Starfire, Starfall, Nourish, and Healing Touch by 4%. Again, Healing Touch not too impactful. Nourish more impactful than Healing Touch, but you can't really be mad at just a flat increase critical strike chance to those spells. And again, this is going to help fuel more Living Seeds, because the more crits you get with Nourish and Healing Touch, the stronger that Living Seed is going to be, because remember, Living Seed takes 30% of the amount healed from whatever heal is proccing it. So if you get a crit, a 30% from a crit is stronger than 30% from a regular ability, you know what I mean? So and it's going to fuel the actual effect too. So definitely should take Nature's Majesty. And down here, finally, we have Nature's Splendor. Increases the duration of Moonfire and Rejuvenation by 3 seconds, your Regrowth spell by 6 seconds, and your Insect Swarm and Life Bloom by 2 seconds. If you know me from my earlier videos, excuse me, pardon me, you know I am a sucker for dot and hot duration increases. And the same can be said for Nature's Splendor. Nature's Splendor is an amazing talent. It will make you a much more effective blanket raid healer because it'll allow your spells to last longer, and it'll save you a couple of GCDs where you don't have to reapply things so often. So yes, you definitely want to get Nature's Splendor. And that's really it for the 856 build, which is the build that you should be aiming to get as a Resto Druid. A couple of things that I do want to start off with is like looking at the comparison between the 856 and the 735 build. So in the 735 build, we skip Empowered Touch and Living Seed and opt to get Nature's Grace and Celestial Focus. And the reason being is, one, you're really trying to get to Celestial Focus because, just I'll read off the talent: reduces the pushback suffered from damaging attacks while casting Starfire, Hibernate, and Hurricane by 70%, and increases your total spell haste by 3%. You really want it for that 3% spell haste because without it, you won't really be able to hit that 735 soft point. The other spells are really just a way to get to Celestial Focus, especially like that one floating point in Brambles. You're really just trying to get that to get down here. The other talent you take is Nature's Grace. All non-periodic spell criticals have a 100% chance to grant you with the Blessing of Nature, increasing your spell casting speed by 20% per 3 seconds. So this talent, I see a lot of like misunderstanding or confusion with it. So Nature's Grace affects your spell casting speed, not spell haste. So what this means is that this talent only really affects Healing Touch, Nourish, the cast time of Regrowth, and that's really it. It doesn't really affect the ticks of your hots. So don't be fooled by the wording of Nature's Grace. Now, one of the things I normally see with the 735 build is that once people are beyond this haste soft cap, they still use these talents thinking that these two talents are stronger than the Empowered Touch and the Living Seed talent, because by virtue you're not really using Healing Touch that often. And I disagree with this because of the way haste works. So haste, either you're at the breakpoint or you're not. If you're in between a haste breakpoint or a haste soft cap, that's doing nothing for you. And the same can be said for if you're over it. So for instance, let's say you're using this build, but you're beyond the 856 haste cap. Having a 3% increased haste when you're beyond the haste cap doesn't do anything. Yes, it'll reduce the cast time of your spells, and it'll shorten your GCD if you're not already at that 1 second mark. But having more haste than the breakpoint doesn't do anything for your hots, because you can't, like, it's either you get the extra tick or you don't. In later expansions, they reiterate haste to when you have more haste, you either get a partial tick or it just does more healing. But in Wrath, it doesn't work that way. Either when you're at that point, you really don't want to be over it. So when you're at the 856 haste cap, you really want to be using the other build, which is the one I currently have highlighted and the one that we went through the video with, because having that extra 3% haste isn't really doing anything beyond the 856 mark. So that's the reason why I wanted to highlight the difference between the two. But let's talk glyphs. Let's jump back into the regular scheduled programming and talk some glyphs. So glyphs I have outlined here are kind of interchangeable. I would say the only one I wouldn't say is interchangeable is Wild Growth. Wild Growth can now affect one target, so instead of hitting 5, it hits 6. I think that's a really strong glyph. I think that's the one you more often than not are gonna always use. Like, you don't really change out Wild Growth. Swiftmen. So Swiftmen allows your Swiftman ability to no longer consume rejuvenation or wild growth, saving you that GCD of having to reapply it. I think Swiftman is a really strong talent. I think it's a little bit slept on because people think, I'll just reapply it. I think it's a slept on glyph, and I think it's really strong in the right scenarios. So I definitely think you wanna take Swiftman. If you don't have anything else, Swiftman is a really good glyph. And Nourish. So Nourish. The Nourish heals an additional 6% of each of your healing over time effects present on the target. This is a really good tank healing glyph, and this is an interchangeable glyph, obviously, but I think this is another slept on glyph that can definitely be applied in most raiding or dungeon scenarios because you're gonna have hots out, so it's just really increasing the strength of Nourish on your target that you probably already have hotted up anyway. It also shines on like fights where healing single targets are important, like Dreamwalker. I know I mentioned Dreamwalker already, but this is a really good glyph on Dreamwalker when you're hotted, you have the dragon hotted up and you're just spamming Nourish, getting maximum effect Nourishes out. So really good glyph there. But there are a couple of other options. The first one, in my opinion, that I really like is the Innervate glyph. This basically grants two people the Innervate effect, so yourself and the person that you're casting it on. So I think the glyph of Innervate is a really powerful glyph, definitely an option that you wanna take on. And the next glyph I would say is the glyph of Rejuvenation. While your rejuvenation is active on targets below 50%, you will heal them for an additional 50% more. This is just for if a person has a really strong damaging dot on them, or the tank is just getting hammered by a boss. Can't be mad at glyph of Rejuvenation. I do want to mention one thing because I'm sure it's probably going to come up. Glyph of Rapid Rejuvenation. So glyph of Rapid Rejuvenation. Your haste now reduces the time between periodic healing ticks of your rejuvenation. So glyph of Rapid Rejuvenation, in practice, what it does is it does hasten the effect of rejuvenation, but the way it does it is by shortening the duration of rejuvenation. And in smaller content like dungeons and 10-man, like if your guild is just a straight up 10-man guild and you're the Resto Druid, you're the main healer for that 10-man guild or that 10-man group in the guild, then Rapid Rejuvenation is a really powerful glyph. Really powerful glyph. In 25-man though, when you're blanket healing people, you really don't want a shorter duration on your rejuvenation. You really don't. Plus, using Rapid Rejuvenation in 25-man really means that a large portion of your rejuvenation is just going to be overhealing. And that's really what you don't want as a Resto Druid. And Resto Druids are really prone to overhealing because once a hot is out, you can't control what happens. Like it's either like if the hot is out, if you put rejuvenation on somebody while they're at damage, the healing doesn't stop when they hit full. Like it's gonna keep ticking when they hit full, and they're gonna be healed by other healers. So you really don't want, you want to make the most of your healing. You don't want a lot of overhealing, which is what the glyph of Rapid Rejuvenation would contribute to. It's in 25-man, but in 10-man, it's a really strong glyph. Really strong glyph in 10-man. Would not recommend for 25-man. But that's all I'm gonna say on Rapid Rejuvenation. In my opinion, I would just use a different glyph. But if you want to use Rapid Rejuvenation because your guild is a primarily 10-man guild or a guild that just runs like 2 or 3 10-man groups, sure, take Rapid Rejuvenation. But for me, I probably think like my personal preference is probably Innervate, unless I'm playing like a specific fight like Dreamwalker, then I'll pick up Nourish. But this is what I would use for major glyphs. Minor glyphs, you always get to pick a litter with minor glyphs. In my opinion, I think you should get the buff ones. So like you're gonna be buffing people, get the buff ones, get Unburdened Rebirth for no reagent costs, and the ones you don't care about. Typhoon, you don't care. Dash, boom, there you go. You're picking a litter with minor. But this is really it. This is it for the 856 haste build and the major glyphs that you're going to be using. Resto Druid is a really fun healer. I think, in my opinion, they're the unsung healer. But if you do main Resto Druid and this video came across to you, and I may have missed something, hey, let me know in the comments below. I'm always open for the conversation, but I think this is pretty much what you want to use when you're using the 856 Haste Breakpoint build and my preference on Glyphs. So without further ado, guys, that's the end of the video. You guys are great. I've been Soul, and I'm out. Peace.